Mr. James Scarlett. It's the big one. We go again. Tell me about all my art tangent bands I can look forward to.
Mate, it is not the big one. The big one is next week. I've had a bit of a fucking nightmare of a week. And
So, so
yeah.
tell us what you can tell us because last we heard you were having a wild week of booking. So, from the snippets that I've got, as we've had to postpone that now to next week, it sounds like a wild fortnight of booking. So, what can you tell me and the masses?
Well, the good news is next week we are announcing three of the four ATG headliners. The slightly less good news is that people are going to come here today and get the announcement. It's now going to come on Tuesday, the 4th of February. So it slightly changes how the podcast interacts with the announcement. So I think my plan, I haven't really talked to you about this, but I think we'll probably still do a Gav reacts blindly to the announcement. And when people listen to the episode, they'll already heard the bands that are coming out. But there's a bunch of stuff that I think you're gonna have loads to say about it. Look, it's like life in the music industry, basically. I will talk in detail next week about exactly blow by blow what happened with this announcement. But the reality is we can either announce some of the bands on Thursday this week and then some more on Tuesday next week, or we can just do it fucking properly and do them in one go. And we had five or six of us on a call the other day trying to decide what the best thing to do was here. We've already announced it to the ATG Facebook and mailing list. We've announced it on the pod. We've got a pod plan. Me and you didn't have the fucking plan to do this Q&A today. So there's a lot of fucking about had to go on. And next week we'll dig into it because I think it's supposed to be behind the scenes podcast, isn't it? And I'm going to tell you what my thought process was and why we've waited. And look, genuinely, I'm really excited for the lineup that we're going to announce next week. There are tons of bands that have never played ATG before. There's going to be some real surprises for people, but bands that people are going to go, oh yeah, of course they're playing ATG, but they've never played before. So I'm like really bullish about it. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping no one's actually come here thinking they're going to get the announcement today. We will have told people on the various social
I
channels.
I hope you're going to do it for your social channel. I've certainly told the group because a post went up from someone saying, "Oh, cannot wait! Fast forward to Thursday, looking forward to this announcement." I was a bit like, "Yeah," and I know you've been having a busy time lately dealing with all this and down at the farm, which I'm sure you'll talk about. And it's like, oh, by the way, we are probably not going to get to that this Thursday, but by the sounds of it, it's all going to be worth it.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It is going to be worth it. And we haven't told as we record now on Tuesday evening, we haven't actually told everyone on social media yet that this isn't coming Thursday. And the reason for that is because I've been fucked about so much this week. I'm worried that the fucking about is still not over. It's,
Yeah,
you have those times with bands where it's all about like their schedule rather than your schedule, and
of
that's
course.
that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. And I said to our guys, this is why Download don't tell you fucking 4 weeks in advance what date their announcement's coming, because sometimes you can't stick to the date you told people. And not
Yeah.
only have we had to move the ATG announcement's gone to the day we had scheduled for trees, so we've had to we've had to fucking move the trees announcement as well. It's a
And
double fuck.
and not that I take any pleasure in the fact that this is knocked our podcast plan ahead, or the fact that you now have some of your scrambling about between your both festivals not to clash them. But Paul very smugly posted on one of our WhatsApp chats to the group. He goes, "Ha, there's James and Gav talking about announcement. James has got 3 to 4 weeks planned in advance with a soccer. Gav gets abandoned Wednesday night and announces them on Thursday morning. And like proofs in the pudding, you can have teams of PR, you can have managers and agents you think are on the same page, bands who say they're going to do it, and ultimately it can all just shit can hit the fan. So you might as well just do the fly by the seat of your pants version that I do. Get the band, shout about them. Get the band, shout about them.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, yeah. I think might be a little bit less. It was actually on the podcast a few weeks ago that I announced the dates. I feel like I probably was a bit too cocky there, thinking I can just say dates weeks in advance. I should have. But it's 17 years have been going. I should have really
Okay,
seen that coming. Anyway, look, it's going to be great.
It's a
I'm
bit, it's a
psyched
bit
for
of
next week.
exciting. People were looking forward to it. I hope that if you've made your way for the first time in this podcast, that you don't think we are usually more professional because we're not. This is exactly the level you found us and exactly the level that we've been. So I don't think this is a one-off. It's not. But I have planned a Q&A, which is our rarity these days because you are the man that normally delves into the questions. And weirdly enough, you'd said when you messaged me, you and I tend to go for different questions, and you couldn't be more bang on the money. See, when I went and delved back into that question instead and saw some of the absolute nonsense that you'd picked and left some of the crackers that were in there, I was like, you love a cheesy question. You love a which four drummers would you like to put in a lift and have a conversation with? No, I mean, I'm about like, tell me about the booking process of this 3-band package. So, you're away with your cheddar cheese festivals, and I'm a bit more like, oh, let's get in about why the support bands weren't booked in the Cradle of Filth package. So, I have picked the questions today. I think they're great. Some amazing questions in there, and I'm looking forward to getting about it today.
There are some really good ones, and we are very different in our question booking. And then there are some questions you put in today which I've repeatedly passed over. But sometimes they're questions for me where I'm thinking, it almost feels better if you put it in and it's for me. Then I'm like, oh, at least Gav's interested. If you put a question in for yourself and you're not really sure about it, it feels a bit awkward. Do you know what I
All
mean?
right. Okay, well that's the reason they've got an it's we get about some of it today. So hope that if you have arrived for your first listener, you can get a bit of what this podcast is all about. And another thing this podcast is all about is a live tour, apparently. And our third date, Bristol, is now sold out, James. Your home city
Yes.
of Bristol.
Happy days. Well done, Bristol. Really good. And well done, Miles. Lovely bit of promoting there, mate.
Well done, Miles. Well done, Bristol. I noticed there was a comment online saying, "Oh, James will be lording this over Gavin," and you might try, but Slay is a bigger capacity than the duck and hen. Okay, so it's like the chicken and rabbit or
Hen
whatever.
and chicken, mate. Hen and chicken.
So,
Yeah.
the hen and chicken is it? Oh, James, I cannot be doing with you having IT glitches today. I'm at the end of my tether with you, pal. You have 5 seconds to come back into this podcast before I am gone.
IT glitches, mate.
Oh, and are you back?
I'm here, mate. I've never left.
Oh, don't even don't even start me. Right, okay. Moving on then. A huge thank you to everyone who has firstly bought the tickets for the tour. There is still Glasgow, Gloucester, London, and Leeds available for the last 2 weekends in March. Please come and join us. It's shaping up to be a good one. We are in the process now of putting a bingo card together to see how that'll go in the live show. So come along, play some bingo with us. See if James says amazing or if I mention Julie Christmas and win yourself a hot sauce. And it'll be a good night. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to catching up with folk afterwards, meeting people who have listened to us for a year now and having a drink and a good time. So if you can join us with that, please do. What else is also happening last week? The Patreon. Thank you to everyone who has signed up for that. Great start to Patreon. The Ko-fi seems to be running better now in the background. I mean, touch wood with that, but the folk that have stayed with that seem to still be working. I've not seen any cancellations in the last week or forced cancellations in the last week. So if you're on Ko-fi and you're happy there, please continue to do so. It makes no difference to us what avenue the support comes from. So if you're on Ko-fi, great. The folk that have joined up to Patreon, thank you very much. There's an odd thing with Patreon that didn't happen with Ko-fi. When Ko-fi, anyone signed up, they made a donation of some description. Patreon seemed to have like 82 people on it, but 50 odd paying. So I'm not quite sure where the balance of that is. If you're one of those 20 or 30 people who are on our Patreon but not donating, we would appreciate the support on that too.
Yeah, lovely. When I'm having a particularly bad day, I just sit there refreshing Ko-fi and Patreon just to make myself feel better. It's quite satisfying. It does. It
72
means a lot.
pence to James.
It's really nice. It means a lot of people supporting us. So yeah. Would you like to hear what I've been up to today?
Yes.
Or would you like to hear about cider?
I would actually like to hear about cider because you're talking about people supporting us. Let's hear about people supporting us, James.
Okay, I saw you take a lovely big glug of cider there. So it feels like a very appropriate time to announce our new sponsor is Western Cider. I've literally never seen Gav so happy as the moment he finds out that there's a like a few crates of cider on the way to his house, and he is now sponsored by
Well,
the biggest and best independent cider producer in the world, I believe they are.
you need to put this in context. I have had a very successful deal with the likes of Holy Goat for years. And then when you go to your festival, it's like, oh, this is this brand and this is this brand, and it's always some sort of beer. And I'm a cider drinker. So then when yourself and your brother Rob said, we've got this deal with Weston's are coming on board, I was over the moon. And yes, I received a very generous package. And can you imagine how happy Matt last week was? I received a shit ton of Weston cider, including this rhubarb one, which I'll tell you about in a second. And then the following day, I get a crate from Lou's Brews. So I'm like, this is the best job in the world. You've got the Patreon started. You get people sending you cider. You've got people sending you merch. You've got people sending you hot sauces. I'm like, oh, why did we not do this fucking 10 years ago? So, tell us about Weston's. They're from your festivals. I'm the one benefit from the cider because I'm the one that drinks it, but they're from your festivals.
Yeah, so we've been working with Weston's for over 5 years now. Both, well, it started at Trees and now they're at Trees and ATG. So it feels like a very like natural fit. They're an independent, they're family run. So I think they've been going like 100, nearly 150 years. They were started by, I believe, Henry Weston, and basically the Weston family is still involved. They're still like members of the family, like properly involved in the business. So it's like it's very like Trees or Damnation like in a way. So it's really nice having them on board. James is their festival and events guy. So you got to meet this guy, Gav. He's feel like there's like you'll be quite kindred spirits. He comes along to Trees and ATG in his camper van on this sort of like I think he lies to himself and tells himself he's just coming down to see how it's going. And then every time he does it, he ends up sleeping in the camper van. He never actually, I'm just going to nip in for a couple of hours, see what it's like, and then I'm going back to work. And
I mean,
like, you
he
know,
already knows, mate, when you shop a camper van, you already know the deal, don't you?
yeah,
Like, you're staying, mate. You're not taking the mini, you're taking the camper van with you.
yeah, you've made your decision. So James is a lovely guy. He's been there like 25 odd years as well. So it's just it's a nice, really nice company. It fits so well with Trees and ATG. And I think now it fits really well with the podcast. So um, we're super excited to have them. They're going to be at both festivals this year. There's a ton of cider. We'll talk about this over the coming weeks and months a bit more, go into a bit more detail. But the one thing I wanted to tell you is that there is a discount code, which is POD10. So if you go to their website, you can get 10% off. They do Stowford Press, Dark Berry, Rosie's Pig Rhubarb. What are you drinking at the moment there?
Rosie's Pig Rhubarb, which is the most bizarre cider and the first gulp you might ever drink. Because you think about it like the amount of when you drink a fruity cider, any of the big brands are usually quite sweet, gassy, like strawberry and lime. You drink a couple of two and it feels like sort of you've rubbed sugar cubes against your teeth. Uh, this is like your old school farmer in a bale of hay cider, but with a flavour of rhubarb. So it's like flat. And the first time you drink it, oh, that's odd. And I had that at a party the other night. I was letting people try, like, oh, that's odd. But you quickly get the taste for it. And then it becomes a bit moreish. And then next thing you know, you're on the kitchen floor. So you need to be careful with it also. Drink responsibly, people.
So I was going to tell you this next week, but actually it kind of follows on really well from what you just said. So they basically only use apples from their own orchards or from orchards within 50 miles of the cider mill, which me and Rob went to a while back in Herefordshire. And basically they're like really like it's like slow maturing cider. They're doing it the proper way with proper, the proper ingredients and the proper techniques. And it's like it's not it's like the opposite. I know this sounds cheesy, but it's just so how I see our festivals. It's like we're trying to do it in the right way rather than just being like money, 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 money. So
Aye,
yeah,
the mass produced version of whatever pop punk band you can
yeah,
get to put on. Yeah, so what website is it? Westons.co.uk or .com or
yeah. I mean, of course, I would have brought that information with me. I go to this place called Google and I write Western cider into it,
and
and
this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I do the advert reads, okay?
well, let this be a lesson to you, Gav. But no, look, massive thanks to James and the Westerns team, and we're really happy to have you on board. And Gav in particular looks like he's enjoying himself there.
Cheers to all the folk for Westons. Everyone who's listening, if you enjoy your cider, go and check them out. Give them the same sort of support you've shown Lewis Brews.
Great.
So how was your week, James?
Good. I mean, mad, busy, busy, busy. There's a few quick things I wanted to tell you about, which I thought would be interesting for people. Firstly, I went to Fernhill Farm today. Um, Fernhill Farm in January is a is a real trip. It's always blustery and wet and cold. But it's nice. It's nice to see the farm. Nice to see Andy and Jen, the farmers. Um, we had we were actually there to renegotiate our contract. So that's not really why you get into festivals, is it? To go and chat to people about money in
No.
January. But we did. And yeah, it was just really nice to be back there. And it made me like super psyched for the festival for this year. So yeah.
Sometimes you see you arrive there and they've put a fence up in the middle of where the main stage is going to be, or that happens to be another 400 sheep in a field that you never expected to be there. Was it as you expected when you left it?
Do you know what? I basically I didn't have a car today, so I got a taxi there and back, and I left myself 2.5 hours because you can't really just order an Uber from Fernhill Farm, as you've no doubt found out yourself. So I booked a taxi, and our meeting took exactly the 2.5 hours I was there. So I did not see the field that the festival is in at all. I looked out of the window of the barn, and that was it. So it was a meeting. It wasn't a wander around the field, which was a shame because I always wander around the field. So he did, Andy did say to me, we're going to plant some trees in the arc tangent, like the sort of there's the main arena and the yokai arena.
Yeah,
And he's like, are you going to change your site plan much? Because we're just going to plant a few. They want they have the cattle in there a lot. So they want some covering for the cows. So like if it's windy, the cows can sort of shelter a bit.
yeah.
So they're just going to bang some trees in there. So there'll probably be one through the middle of the Bixler stage when you get there next year. Who knows?
As is the joy. The joy of organising at these sites, brilliant.
Yeah. A couple of other things. We so obviously we've had the Hayden podcast, but there was a couple of things I wanted to bring up from the previous podcast, which was from before that. One is that I talked about breaking the internet with a band in January. Do you remember this?
Yeah, yes. But my understanding when you first said that was for trees, and then I think I misspoke when I asked you about it again and it said ATG, and it caused
Yeah,
all sorts of confusion. So
it
I
has.
straightened that up for us.
Yeah. So because I don't know why I didn't correct you when you did that, because then it just sort of took on a life of its own, and I was just watching it. I've been watching it go around Facebook for the last 2 weeks.
From a distance, just burning. It's like,
Yeah,
please, James, please just connect me when I misspeak. Just connect me because I came off that one going, shit, I've set something in fire here, and I
yeah.
didn't mean to.
So the band that's going to that I was talking about that's going to break the internet is a trees band, not an ATG band, and it's now not happening in January. It's going to happen sort of early to mid-Feb. So just to clear that one up. The other thing I want to clear up is how much you and Brian screwed me over with that Muse video.
Move on.
It's really
Fuck me,
upsetting.
man. Get it fucking boulder off your shoulder, Jesus Christ.
Right.
One clip that you get done with. One in the whole time, and they're like, yeah.
Everyone was coming on. They were desperate to tell me Muse play stadium. Do you not realize Muse play stadiums? I was just fucking throwing my laptop across the fucking room.
The thing is, right, now, was there a wider context? Did you mention other bands before those bands? Yes, you did.
Yeah.
But that clip wasn't edited. You did say those words in that order. There was nothing to the middle. You did say these were bands that are underrated by the rock community, and you included Muse in it. So don't be coming back at me, Brian. And also, how am I involved? I never done anything. Like,
No.
Brian took that clip and done it by himself.
I
Don't
think
chuck me under the bus.
I've met Bri. I've looked him in the eye, and I felt that Gav's sticky fingers were all over that video. But
Not at all, mate. You missed smoke in that situation. You got yourself chucked under the bus. Don't be bringing up free podcasts later for clarification.
okay. Two more things I wanted to say about. I think these are wildly mad. We got exclusive this week. So Dan, who books all our kids stuff at 2000 Trees, I was on a phone call with him talking about some plans and booking and stuff, and he goes to me, I've got something you might want to know. And he listens to the podcast and he's like, you're gonna think this is mad. Basically, we booked a kids um, act, which is a DJ set, but it's a kids DJ set. Um, and we have just been exclusive out, so that it was confirmed. And another festival has told that act they're not allowed to play 2000 Trees. And we've been exclusive out of a fucking kids DJ. Have you ever heard
Oh,
anything so wild?
fucking start them young.
Like I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but this
Aye.
I can't
It
help
seems
think. I mean,
it seems a bit surreal. I mean, are we talking proper fees here? And
no,
they
no,
did,
no. We're talking less than 500 quid, way less than 500 quid.
and you can exclusive a band or a DJ, a kids DJ for less than 500 quid.
I said to him, ring him up and tell him that's ridiculous. It's like they're just stopping you working. Makes no sense. Whose tickets are you like what? I mean, I just can't understand it. I anyway.
I mean, how popular is it? Kids can all just show up under a different name. We can show up as Gavin McInally if he wants and just play the same bangers that I would play. You know what I mean? Just do
Yeah,
that.
it's not no, exactly. It's not like it's Linkin Park headlining your main stage, is it? And everyone's going to notice. But anyway, and the final thing is, I had an email from an agent, which is a very short email. I hope he doesn't mind me telling you because I know he listens to the podcast. And it said, "Hey James, I'm really not trying to book 2026. I'm only sending you this because two of your competitors have asked who I might have around in June and July. So it's only fair to send the same list to you, but we can revisit in 6 months' time if you want to." So basically, it sent the fear through me because two of your competitors. Well, I know exactly who that is in June and July. I'm sure you do. It's
Yeah.
pretty easy to guess. Are already booking,
So, aye, it's a case of, well, it's now or you can come back in 6 months' time and the bands have been
and they're all gone.
signed up with
Yeah,
everyone else. You're like, oh,
yeah,
what's left? Scraps are left on the table. Aye, I mean, there's
yeah.
no way around it at this point. We're just like, okay. And I'm
That's,
I the same, and not no one exclusive me and a kids DJ to be fair, but otherwise, I plodding away with that. I want to give a shout. I feel like we have in this podcast fairly had a go at agents and some of the agents' practices, and I think it's only fair if you do that you point out when some of them are absolute heroes. And I have to say, a man I've been super impressed with in the last fortnight, if no month, is Mr. Tom Taff, who some folk might remember from the episode we done the Agent Strikes Back. He was the chap that came on. Now, just something, even 20 years in, some of his working practices in the last couple of weeks are just like, Jesus. I'm talking like working together on how the routing of a band to make sure that the band can get the maximum amount of money that he needs to get to make a short trip to Europe work. What kind of supports rather than him just going, right, okay, I've got my band on here in Damnation and the supports can go and rot. So they might get a slot in there, they might not. How about I try and help this situation? So no matter who the other agent comes in, I've already got a pencil in for a slot. Negotiating on fees where you think, right, okay, there's maybe something else we could do with that. How about we look at plan A, B, and C? Again, always with his client, his band, first and foremost in mind, but working with the promoter, me, the festival, me, and saying, this is how we do it. Like, fuck me, if we've done this with so many other agents, everybody would just have a more pleasant experience, and the success rate would be so much higher for bands getting on these festivals and people having a clearer pictures. See the amount of agents, I mean, almost all of them really, who just book their band, and it's a bit like you might get a call in a month's time once the other agent realizes that band's finally been put on spot, and by that point you might have filled the slot and then they're going to be left in a car park. It's
so you
incredible, and I
mean
was just like, each time it kept coming back, I was like, this is just far too reasonable behaviour for an agent. This guy just been using far too much common sense and far too much proactive forward thinking. And I wanted to flag that up because, as I say, we are very good at saying when agents just leave you high and dry. And there's been a few deals lately with Tom where I've been thinking this is going to work for all parties, and maybe more so his bands, because he's making this work for the festival and we're able to then offer more or a better slot because we've got full transparency of what he's trying to achieve.
I do like Tom in that regard because he's very straight talking. So he'll basically say to you, this band really want to tour in this period, so let's make this happen. Or he'll say they're not going to tour. This has got to be a fly-in. Or he'll be like, this is a shot in the dark. You think you're wasting your time here. It makes it quicker for everyone. I think it's a really nice way to work. As opposed to some agents who are like, here's my 10 bands, just please offer me them, and then they're not even available. Some of them. It's like, what the fuck was the point of
they're
what was the point
booked
in
for
that?
you. You've already been exclusive, and this isn't a kids DJ. There's like the other band that are getting 20 grand at another festival. You're actually offering me somebody who's playing in England 2 weeks beforehand or 2 weeks after. I'm like, it's just a lazy list that gets put out. And I've been well chuffed for that. So fair play to Mr. Tom Taff.
So is he trying to help you out with? So let's say there's a touring band. He's trying to get the supports, which may not be his band's slots on Damnation as well, and he's working to make sure those bands are bands that you would want.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So I mean, like that, and he's like, and not just from my impression of how he's working, not just me. So he's a bit like, well, why bother? Why bother if you're going out for, I know, fucking 12 shows and you're going to try and get 2 support bands on, but 3 of the festivals aren't interested in those bands, then it's not very fair to go to those bands and go, here, come and join us for these dates. But by the way, you're going to have to go and start haggling from the very start with 3 or 4 different events. So, aye, good. There you go. A wee bit of positive. Who knows? Maybe the next pod I will do a positive film review and the whole world will get balanced. So, on that note, let's but we'll get into the questions. Let's get into the questions.
Okay, let's do it. So Miles Kite says, following on from discussions about struggling festivals, venues closing, rising production costs, and some mid to large artist fees being all over the place, maybe it's naive to ask, but hypothetically, do you ever see a point where the artists or their teams would need to make an effort to reduce or limit their costs and fees in order to keep venues and events alive?
Great question, Miles. Now, and that Tom Taft's a weird jumping off point for that, because he is someone I've heard reference that when you're getting offered your band's worth 5 and getting paid 5 everywhere, and somebody comes in and offers 25, the natural instinct is to just grab at it. But you can lead yourself, and a lot of agents, managers, and bands themselves lead themselves into a trap by taking what they think's an offer's too good to be true. And what happens? It's too good to be true. That festival collapses because I've offered all the bands that are worth 5,000, 25,000. The ticket sales don't come through. It gets cancelled. Everybody gets fucked over. Your time's wasted, and you need to go to a lot of other events who were going to pay the proper fee and tell them your band's no longer available. Case in point with that would be Ministry from 2023. So, he's one of the few people I've actually heard saying that. Whether in working practice, I mean, it's not the agent's final decision. I'll be the manager on the band. I mean, the agent can only take the offer and say, we're getting offered stupid money here, but we should realise a few red flags. You know what I mean? If you're getting offered, why would someone offer 5 times the asking fee unless they were inexperienced, and if that inexperience that could lead to other problems. Now, let's take Damnation 2023 as the example, answer this question from everyone's point of view. I can work for a full year as a promoter, make no money, and be upset that the fans never supported it. I can be upset that the agents asked for too money. I can be upset that the managers and the bands took too much money, and I can blame the world. I could be a band who took money to play Damnation 2023 and not have covered my costs. So it cost me $2,000 to play Damnation, but I only got 1,000 in the fee. I can blame the promoter. I can be angry that not enough fans came out, and then I can be the agent who maybe tried to route a full tour, and at the last minute the tour collapses and they get paid zero money for a month's worth of work. So whatever point of view there's a reference to where you could say, I'm the one that's worked hard and been screwed over. No one ever says, oh, by the way, I'm getting paid too much. You never hear anyone in any line of work saying, oh, by the way, I'm paid too much. I mean, you don't get fucking Messi and Ronaldo saying, oh, but I think 110 million a year is maybe a bit too much. It just doesn't happen. People take what they can get. There's a bigger conversation about the ecosystem of, exactly as I explained there, if you're taking too much and you kill something off, does that serve you in the future if that event's no longer there for it? But putting this on the bands, and to be fair to Miles, he did have more in his question. It just got a bit too long for the one question, where he's saying that from his point of view, if he's hearing stories in a podcast that bands are ruining riders are asking for outrageous fees and festivals are getting desperate and having to pay them. His point of view is like he's angry that he hasn't to pay more for his ticket because he's like, well, Damnation 23, for example, why do I have to pay £70 for a ticket when I used to get to Damnation for 30? But it's not that bottle of vodka that's been left in Carcass's dressing room that's put your ticket up from £30 to £70. Miles, it's fuel, it's taxis, it's the fencing going up 4 times the cost, the staging going up 3 times the cost. The band fees rising as well, but that's only because their van hire, the crew hire, the fuel, the flights, the world economy, rather than, I get what you mean about the wasted ride on some of the stories me and James been getting frustrated with it, but ultimately it's everything in the world going up. In a lot of cases, these bands are not worth that amount if they were to just play their own headline show. But as us competing as festivals to try and stay alive, we need to pay these inflated fees. And that ultimately always goes back to the punter, because if you could get a band for £5 and you could put the stage in for £10, and when the band is £10 and the stage is £20, the punter has to pay, or there is no event. So I hate to pile onto the bands and say they should look at the fees and they should bring it down, because I'm sure if I was the singer in a band, I'd be saying the promoter needs to pay more and the agent needs to get less and the merch prices should be better.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful answering this. I'm not talking about bands that you're paying £500 to, or even £5 really, but at a much higher level of around the headliner slots. I definitely think that no one, and the way I read this question is, he's basically asking me, you know, should the bands and be thinking, fuck me, we're sending festivals bust here. Should we be like reducing our fees, reducing our costs and bringing our fees down? Now, look, I think that's just going to be a bit like climate change, where everyone knows it's happening, but they won't really deal with it until it's too late. No one's thinking like that in the music industry. There are good guys. We know lots of good guy agents, um, but really, mostly managers and agents are trying to get the absolute most amount of money. So let's say headliner A, they know that they want to go out for 50 grand for a festival slot. The agent is going to tell you the band wants 100. He knows you're going to negotiate and you're going to put 75. Then at the last minute, he'll push you to 80 and go back to the band and you go, you know that festival that you were pretty happy with 50. Well, I've got you 80 grand. So fucking happy days. And that's how the industry works. I've got my eyes open to that that's happening. No one's thinking, oh, poor festival. If a few go bust, I just don't think anyone really cares. Now, that's not to say that lots of the agents I work with regularly wouldn't be gutted if ATG or Trees disappeared. And certainly some of them would lose a big chunk of, I mean, if you take Hayden as an example, he's presumably made some decent commission off Arctangent over the years. And so he would be gutted from a personal perspective. I'm sure if it went bust, he would be gutted from a financial perspective probably as well. But no one, but this is not about hate any agent. They're just not thinking like that. They're thinking, you want my band, I'm going to get the most amount of money for you.
Yeah.
And they're just
And
assuming that festivals can survive that, I think.
it's so nuanced with that as well, because then you go to the agent and he goes leaving about the cash in that one. It's a bit like if you don't get the cash for it, so another agent does it, or the band leaves you, and then you've just lost. It isn't about that one festival, that one fee. It's like you haven't done with that band. And I'm sure, I mean, I'm not an agent and I don't work for demanded bands, but I'm sure there's a few bands out there who are worth £1,000 asking for 10,000, and the agents out there trying to make that 10,000 happen for them because they want to continue in that role for that band and make that money. So I get the question. I don't. I tried to be. I don't know how my answer came across, but I tried to be like from everyone's point of view in this industry, from the fan to the headline band. There's always a case to be made that you're either paying too much or not being paid enough, and everyone's got a reason for feeling that way. So, it's a tough one in the business, Miles, but I can't see too many. I can't see too many bands going, "Oh, you're totally right. Let's try and save Damnation. We'll take £5 less in our next fee." So, unfortunately, not. Emily Coulter, our photographer at Damnation. How are you, Emily? What is something a band have done or could have done to get themselves never to be booked at either festival again?
Well, I mean, particularly at ATG, that we work with some difficult bands, right? In terms of requirements. And there's none of them have been too difficult to ever work with again. I mean, Cult of Luna's production is always mad. High Lung, absolutely crackers to do in a field. It's a theatre show. To do it in a field is just oh, it really challenges. Have you ever booked God is an Astronaut?
Yes.
I mean, they're extremely demanding, like extremely, extremely, extremely demanding technically.
Do you know, so I had God's an Astronaut in 2011, headlining the third stage, James, before it was redone. So the old wooden box where you would have seen Boscovy back in maybe 2012. And they showed up in a fee for a band that would play that slot. I mean, just not significant. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a band at that level rolling in their own lighting desk, sound desk, lighting package, floor package. The venue would be like, I don't think our sockets are going to take the sort of power outage of how much is going to be. Like, these guys look like they've just came out from an academy, like a 2,500 capacity academy, to play a 500 cap room. And the way, I mean, it's only so demanding you can be in a room that's the size of my office I'm sitting in just now, it's like, but I remember at the time, God, Jesus, this is a lot for a band who were not headlining the main stage.
No, so and they're actually when they arrive, they're actually really nice. But they're very challenging. And particularly the first time they played when we were still sort of getting our feet under the table at ATG. But look, I'd book all those bands again. It's not really a slight on any of them. They're super technical. There are some bands that are rude to my team, and that always makes me hesitate. Sarah always says to me after the festival, that guy's a dickhead. He was really horrible to me. And that isn't, it's just not cool. Not necessarily blacklisted anyone, but there are a few you're like, they're just not. There was one from ATG last year. No, the year before, and they're not very nice people. So I would very much hesitate to book them again. There's one band that is blacklisted at Arctangent, and I have started approaching the idea of booking them. I think you know what I'm talking about, Gav. And I'm actually, so they're not blacklisted anymore because I'm actually considering it. And then for Trees, I don't know. Well, we talked about that band they squared up to me. They were basically, I feel like we talked about this, but they were late on stage. The singer was going mad. I mean, if he'd to you, you would have just dropped the nut on him, I think. He got a face in front of everyone in the backstage, was screaming and shouting in the dressing room, was kicking the wall, boot hole in the radiator, and properly kicked off. And they were blacklisted. But do you know what? Eventually, I bumped into him in a cafe in Bristol, and I just thought, fucking hell, everyone's allowed to. He did. It's not that he even apologized. I just thought, oh, it was years ago, whatever. And I did book him again. So,
right. So that band ultimately weren't blacklisted.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've actually forgiven them, but I forgot about. I sort of like moved on. I still think it wasn't great. Anyway, so you can do. You basically do fucking anything at my festivals, and if I want you enough as the band.
Aye, there's part of like rude. Just being rude probably isn't going to be enough because you're operating in an industry where that is either people are genuine assholes and you can be a genuine asshole and create great music, or you could be a band in the middle of a fucking 60-date tour and you just show up at the wrong end of a wrong flight and you're just a wee bit hostile and.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in another day, you'd probably be a decent guy or woman too. I mean, it's the infamous ones for Damnation, your Batushka, Mayhem, Churasas. I mean, fuck, the worst case, like, some of them were quite rude, and that was it. It's like, you wouldn't be clapping your hands about the idea, oh shit, it's coming back again. But then sometimes you get rumours like, oh my god, you're going to book Cradle of Filth. You book Cradle of Filth. Oh, that's a demanding band, Cradle of Filth. You're going to have your hands on the Cradle of Filth. I never heard a single thing that was. In fact, I only heard good things about Cradle of Filth. Or Mike Tate, the guy who runs the sort of volunteer crew that we've got there. I think he went in and got a T-shirt signed and got a vinyl, and I saw Danny cutting a bit at the back. He seemed like a pleasant enough wee guy, and. Everybody was like, right, okay. It's like sometimes you get this, and I'm sure that's not lies. I'm sure that the people that are saying this, promoters have dealt with them, have had Cradle of Filth on a particularly difficult day. But considering they were showing up at our festival to do a set that apparently they didn't want to do and had to sort of fall in line with the festival restrictions in the middle of a tour when they would have had a full venue and a full stage themselves. They were surprisingly pleasant. So, aye, there is nothing that bands have done in terms of this whole cancel culture. I've decided I'm going to talk about the cancel culture thing when we do the live tour. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a bit more. But so we can talk about black metal.
Good.
Get a great start to the live tour. Get us cancelled the first fucking day.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to having a bit more of a chat about that in depth. But obviously black metal will come to that. If you were, again, that we can, the nuance of where you draw the line of it, what's unsavoury or not in black metal. But if you're a band who just had a fucking swastika on the back of your stage, I mean, that's obviously no, you won't be booked. I'm not a separate the art from the artist type of guy, really. I think it does come in the one package, largely. And if you were outwardly racist, I mean, I don't mean like your second cousin played five-a-sides with a guy who once said a racist term. I mean, if you were openly racist, I just Googled it and it said you had a swastika on your fucking arm. No, you couldn't play Damnation. It's not like it's not a free-for-all. You just show up and you can have your way with the festival and the festival's platform. So to answer the second part of that question, that answers it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't read any of the sort of the kind of allegation-y type things into this question, but now you say it is part of it. And there's definitely a bunch of bands that I won't book for my festivals for various things. But I make, well, as you say, it turns out we're talking about this on the live tour. I make my own decisions on that. I'm not fully just being told these bands you're allowed to book, these bands you're not allowed to book. I make my own decisions. We'll talk about them more then, I guess. Fucking hell.
Oh yes, can't wait. Hit us up.
Bloody hell. Okay, Callum Reed says, what are the complexities of handling touring packages when booking Damnation? This year we had Cradle of Filth headlining, Butcher Babies not involved in a musical sense anyway, and High Parasite as a fairly late replacement for Lord Dying. Do you get better deals for taking on all bands on a touring package?
So to tackle the first part of that, well, firstly, his in-joke is the singer from Butcher Babies walked through our crowd with Russian circles so playing, holding a big ring light. So if you're wondering what he means by that point, that was his little in-joke. The package, so Cradle of Filth, there was an earlier conversation we had in one of the pods when we started it, where I referred to a package. I think we were talking like, I think a question came in when a package comes in, do we need to take everything that's on it? And I'd made the point of, we'll book this headline band and there'll be a band on there that we won't take. In fact, there was two because we never took High Parasite at the start either. And it was Butcher Babies. And the agent was very, very keen on getting Butcher Babies onto Damnation. Why wouldn't he be? It's convenient. Why they don't want to have to go away and try and ultimately never went away and organised their own Manchester show that night. They sat on a bus until they came out and gave everybody a light show. So Butcher Babies are not, that whole ring light stunt or not, they're not a Damnation band. It's just like Damnation is quite a broad spectrum of bands will book. Butcher Babies were one of you could just look at a poster and go, why are they on that? No different from if you had a Freedom Call or I don't know, a fucking out and out hip hop band. You just be like, that doesn't make sense. Or a pop punk band. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever. It's not a Damnation band. I was at the point of, if this is the break, like if you take Butcher Babies or you don't get the other bands with it, Cradle of Filth, I would have stood my ground. And well, effectively, we did stand our ground, and we said we wanted Cradle of Filth. We weren't going to take Butcher Babies, and should something come up for High Parasite further down the line, we would be interested. So the cash value of that package was irrelevant. Cradle of Filth took a fee that they wanted to play that old school set. Butcher Babies never came into discussion. High Parasite never came into discussion. If you were getting I think I've also referenced a famous fucking Doomstar package, the greatest package it never was, which was Wolves in the Throne Room, Blood Incantation, and Bellwitch for what is now, post-COVID, the price of an average band. That whole package was coming for the price of a band you would see halfway up our main stage, and we're getting all three. Now, COVID absolutely scuppered that, and fuck, you'd be lucky to get Bellwitch for the price of that whole package one. And that's because it was all lined up, and Doomstar are very good at putting the packages together. And it was going through the UK, and they were just looking at Manchester as or Leeds, it would have been at the time, as a Leeds day, and not treating it as three separate festival offers. And it was great. And we lost it because of COVID. So to answer your question on that front, yes, touring packages you can get better deals on because the bands are in it. You've got a wee bit more power because the bands, it's convenient for them rather than them flying in for that one-off show. And High Parasite, you answered that yourself. Lord Dying fell out. High Parasite were going to be sitting in the car park. Why wouldn't we give them a bash? And that's how that came to be. Do you agree with the sort of touring packages thing? Is that your experience?
I mean, for me, I'm booking so many bands in terms of the numbers of slots I've got to fill that touring packages usually work for me. So usually the nature of the sort of bands I'm booking, the agents aren't stupid. They're booking suitable band. If I book Jimmy Eat World, whoever they have on tour support is probably going to be suitable for 2000 Trees. It just kind of follows that it would work. So usually I accommodate touring packages, but there's like it's quite a good. The summer festivals, they're not as common as you would get at Damnation, where everyone's in a package probably. That anyone who's on tour, sorry, is already will be in some sort of package. Whereas in the summer, you don't get that so much because people come for just a festival tour a lot. They're not always touring, but when it works, it's great. And there's some nice little sort of back and forth swings and roundabouts things that go on, like with Alexis on Fire. So the band asked for the agent Ross to find out from me who else was booked for 2000 Trees because they wanted a support for their London show. And I sent him the list and they were like, we want Gel. They booked Gel. And then Ross rang me up and he was like, what do you think about Birds in Row? I think the band had requested Birds in Row. And are they on 2000 Trees? I'm like, no, they're not on 2000 Trees, but I'll book them if they're going to be here, then great. So actually, it was like I helped out with the Gel thing a tiny bit, and then they helped bring Birds in Row, and I booked them for Trees. So it's kind of like a nice little thing that just worked for everyone. So
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's not a touring package, but it's a package for the London show for the next day.
And it's came up like that, and that's well, there you go. You never got your 45 Art Tangent band announcement today, but you did get Birds and Row for Trees.
Fuck, have I just announced that?
Yep.
Lovely.
I was like, is he just going to continue this going through? Because, right, brilliant. There you go. You've got an announcement for, we'll get that clipped off, Bri. And under a bus, James goes again.
Incredible, incredible. Do you know what? On the record today, I had to go and check if we've announced them yet or not because I was like, I don't want to do any more surprise announcements, and then I've fucking done it with Birds in Row. What a booking, eh, guys? Is everyone happy? Yes, you are.
Yes, everyone, honestly, what a band. What a band. Adam Holborn. Would love to know how many bands are roughly booked via the submissions email for Trees each year. Given that they tend to be smaller bands and likely to shift the needle with ticket sales, is there a set number of these bands you try to book, or does it vary each year based on the quality of submissions?
Right, so there's loads of bands that are smaller and unlikely to shift the needle with ticket sales that we book. There's loads of them at Trees, but those bands are not from the submissions email thing. I've said this before. This is not the way to get booked for festivals. I don't want to like talk down to bands that are the new young bands, but that's not the best thing you should be doing with your time. You should be writing more songs, playing more gigs, getting more press, maybe get a booking agent at some point. You should be building your sort of how well you're known. Doesn't matter where you're from, go and do some shows. Stop sitting at home on a festival website thinking that is like just going, I'm going to go on Damnation's website now, and then Arctangents, and then downloads, and then Trees, and then Bloodstock, Outbreak. It's a total waste of your time. I'm not saying no one ever gets a slot, but really it is tiny in number. The only thing I try to do is have some Cheltenham and Gloucestershire acts on Trees every year, and some Bristol acts on ATG, and I book loads of unknown acts. But when I say unknown or small, they are they're not on the bottom rung of the ladder. They've done a few things. They've released an EP. It got 4 out of 5 in Kerrang. They did a support slot at the Underworld in London with a popular band in the right scene. You can see they're doing well. They're on the right label. Something. It doesn't have to be all those things. I realise as a band, you can be a bit like, oh fuck, this is hard. This is
Yeah,
never going to be us, you bastard. Can't I just send you an email and you'll book me?
yeah.
But it's it's not that
It's all,
simple.
it's all, you're totally right in it. It's like it's one of the worst things. I hate, and I still hate to this day because I am very, I do react and I do interact with so many people online. So there is an easy method to reach me almost daily. So you get bands that are just shooting their shot, and you never want to be that guy that's just busting bubbles. Like, because it always comes across my festival just too big for your band. When the blunt reality at that moment is it is because you don't really have a band. You're just set up and you've not done your first gig and now suddenly you're wondering if you can go into like the third slot in the second stage and it's not going to happen. I mean, try to think it for a point of a few of Dinner Celestial Birds, Hidden Mothers, Mastiff. I mean, there are three bands that have toured, that have got record deals, who now get albums out, some of them more than one album. They're trying to get the opening slots at Damnation. I love those bands. I want to give them the opening slots at Damnation, and I can't manage it most years. In fact, I haven't yet for any of them. So if you're not already at that stage and they can't get the opening slots, you've got fucking no chance. What to do is get as good as those guys and you'll get on other events, you will make noise, you'll build a fan base, and ultimately you're going to have folk in that forum saying, a son's journey through the night. You cannot Fen are a bad example, they've been a bit forever, but a son's journey through the night are a good example. And an Underdark, a good example of the noise just generates. And that's not about them, they send you an email or shooting a shot. It's just you get to the point that they come across your radar because you hear about them, you enjoy them, there's a demand for them. Because that's important too. Sometimes, like, an overhead albatross is one of these unicorns that just drop at the sky and it's just like, this is absolutely incredible. But more often than not, it's you need demand as well because you're not just booking a band and going, I'm just going to stick these on there and fuck it, it's Gavin McAnally Festival. You want the big thing about you putting a great band in the bill is you want it to actually be like, yes, you want people coming to the woodwork to be, oh yes, I've been waiting for this band for ages, I've just never really shouted about them. So, it's a bit of tough love, isn't it? You can wonder and you'd be like, because the easiest thing to do in the world, send your submissions in. But let's be honest, those submissions are, even though you know there might be a Beatles in there. I mean, I remember one time that Pupil Slicer get in touch before I fell in love with Pupil Slicer, and it was Katie asking if they could play, and I don't think I even noticed it or registered it. And then when I went to try and book Pupil Slicer, I think I must have put them in the search, and the email came up. I was like, fucking hell. Here I am trying to chase this band that I'm now think are fantastic. And a year ago, they were trying to go on. So I could see bands being like, oh, we'll show you when we are sleep talking. But ultimately, someone's going to be sleep talking. And yeah, you can't just take every submission that comes through. It's just, there's no time, space, or headspace for it. So, what James says, go, write songs, play gigs, get noticed, and you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. Is from Boulder Miller. What is the intro track and why was it chosen?
So at this point, James still wasn't involved. He was like, take your podcast and shove up your ass. I am not fucking gonna. I was already contacting Boss to get intro music because James still hadn't given me a yes when he would do this. I had the graphics done for Two Promoters One Pod with Bry, and I'm sending this stuff to James to be like, look, mate, I'm too far down the road.
Yeah, this was all part of the pressure, wasn't it? It's like we're fucking. Look,
Yeah,
there's a
then, mate,
logo.
I've got a logo made. So the track is the unbelievable riff Lyra by Bosk. The unbelievable riff from Lyra by Bosk. Now, Bosk was a Bosk was an easy choice. It's a crossover between, if not all three festivals, definitely Damnation, Art Tangent, and could work at something like Threes. So James is a huge fan of Bosk. I'm a huge fan of Bosk. Tom Begley, who will be our tour manager on tour, is a friend of both of us. I needed permission to use someone's music, so there's no point picking a Metallica riff and then try to get the rights to it. So I went to Tom and said, is there a chance we could use this intro, this snippet of 11 seconds or whatever it is? And he said, absolutely, have at it. And there you are. And it's a bit of a surreal moment, especially when two of us are there in the same field or gig. When it gets played live, you're a bit like, and I say, I've heard that now thousands of times, and it's a bit weird when it gets played live, but absolute picture. I'm so delighted we went with that one.
Yeah, well done, mate. I mean, you're you chose well, and it was all part of the convince
It,
me to
it,
do a
it
podcast
was
thing,
all
which
part of the
also was a
pressure.
good idea. Well, turns out was a good idea.
It was a Reese Hawk, and this is a part of a two-part question. You'll also notice that when I'm choosing the questions, lots of fresh names that we've never mentioned before, questions with people that have never had a question answered before, not the same four that James seems to go back
Hey,
to.
they're asking good questions. You said to me that guy gets a question every week, and I'm thinking I've never seen that fucking name before, so I don't know.
Reese Hawk, two-parter. Question for James. Why aren't the festivals, the two festivals held at the same site? Surely that go a long way to reducing the setup costs, spreading it across two festivals. Paul Butler, question for James. Was Upcott Farm ever a consideration for the site for Art Tangent? Lots of infrastructure already there. Did you ever consider using the same site?
Um, I think no, we didn't really. Firstly, 2000 Trees is a wedding venue, so we're already sandwiched amongst the weddings, and it gets a bit funky when there's like brides turning up, and we've got like 100 people in high vis vests putting up fencing. So I don't think that that would probably work for Upcote Farm anyway. Funnily enough, another festival contacted us today saying, "Can you give us a contact at Upcote Farm to do a festival?" And it's like, nope. But the other thing is,
put that in there with the band submissions. We'll
yeah.
get back to that in a minute.
The other thing is, or the main thing for me is in a wet year, you're in trouble. Like in 2012 Trees, if you'd been having a festival there a week later or 2 weeks later, you would have just, I don't know if it would have probably just stopped it happening because it would have been liquid mud or concrete mud, one or the other. So having said that, a lot of these the sort of new versions of one day festivals in like parks in London and stuff do this where they use the same site.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that story about Hyde Park where they had to get in about 60 truckload of wood chip and cover the entire site because it had got so muddy. So there's ways around it, but they're very expensive. Basically, if you get mud, I just think you're fucked. So no, we've never really considered it. And to be honest, you've been to both festivals. Do you think they'd work at the same site? I mean, you probably ATG would be great at trees, I suppose, but they're different, different sites for different festival vibes. I might be kind of rewriting history a bit, but I think it works. The sort of trees needs to be in a beautiful, cuddly, lovely place with lakes and hills and sunshine. And Arctangent can get away with something a bit more bleak.
Yeah, well, let's hope the owners of Fernhill Farm are not listening to this pod. Your tree will be going right up through the mid-tier main stage at this rate.
I have told them to book the sunshine, but they never seem to. Um,
Just to, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think I asked it in 2014 or 2015 or 10th anniversary. I looked into trying to do one outdoor one just to see how it would go. And I think I contacted a couple of events and it was just like, it's a non-starter. You get a rainy year, you're going to show up and try and start putting your festival together in a swamp. And then your fan base is going to show up and it's a swamp before they've even got there. And you're like, completely right. I mean, you're day one day, you've got summer sessions up at Bellhouston Park, which is not far from where I live. And you've got Kanye West playing one night and or Kendrick Lamar playing one night, Biffy Clyro, and somebody else. Like when you got that day three and you weren't involved in the first and you're going up for you get the high heels on, high heels in the dress, and you're a bit like, oh, I'm away out, I'm going to enjoy a bit of Biffy Clyro, and you show up and it's a utter swamp that people already kicking the mud up on you. That is not a pleasant experience.
no.
Not that I'm showing up with the high heels. Just up here, typical Glasgow women.
The the other thing to say is that it's tempting to think that you would save loads and loads of costs, but let's say the 2003 stage costs £50,000. In that cost is mostly the biggest cost is hire. It's like you're hiring it for a week, right? Now there is a transport cost there of let's say, I don't know, 2 grand, and there is a staffing cost of the people who put it up. But really, the big chunk of the cost is in the hire. So you're not going to save that if you have a festival a week or 2 weeks later, because they rip those stages down, or marquees or fencing or trackway, and they're gone and they're off to the next event. And if you want them to leave it there for a week, they're going to want you to hire it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I technically, so if you were like, if it was 2 weeks apart, you would definitely be paying for the hire of the weekend in between.
Yeah, and absolutely. And so I just, yeah, and if you've got a festival that goes Wednesday to Sunday like we do, could you go again straight away on the Wednesday? I don't know. I don't
No
know.
is the answer, James. Right, moving on. These two guys have finally got us get two festivals at the same site. Moving on.
Okay. Sean, wow, I'm gonna say that I can't pronounce this. Sean, have you typoed this on purpose?
No, that's not.
Sean Aylward is interested to know how many bands from the first announcement are Paul's suggestions and how many are Gav's.
You know, I pulled it up quickly because this was actually quite an interesting wee question when it came up. Because I thought, oh, Paul and I have worked together for so long. I don't even know if it's even a consideration when this is getting done. So looking at it, so the Perturbator, the Haunted, Pig Destroyer, Warning, Wormrot, Stamping Ground, Broad Queen, Korea, Manta, Hell Ripper, Frail Body, Ghost, Meryl Street, Crippling Alcohols, and Enemy announced we gooded. So I don't get any more Paul's suggestion, but almost none of them on that poster would surprise Paul or he would be against. The one where he was a bit like, what was Broad Queen? Was that they were offered rather than us chasing them. And then I investigated a wee bit and you're like, oh, that's cult death metal band for America. Been about 20 years, we had this 15-year hiatus in the middle, never played the UK. The odds mention you've seen down the years, like it'd be really great like that. I bet that's exciting. I bet that's a band when you book them that someone's coming for them. That's their band. That's their jam. They're coming to see that band, and the rest of whatever's been about it, great. Might also enjoy Pig Destroyer, but that's what excites them the most. The poster. And Paul was about like, do we really know a lot about this band? Are we doing the right thing here? That is not a small fee for a band that you don't know a lot about. And I was like, no, trust me with this one, Paul. And I think we came up trumps, to be honest. The for like Manta are probably on that poster because they're one of Paul's bands. See, like when Paul likes a band and he's not sure if he's got you on board with it as well, you get battered with it every time he sees you. So he was the first person in the world to hear LLNN. I think the singer must have contacted his house when he first got it. Because I feel like I've been hearing LLNN for 20 years and I think they've only been a band for 4 or 5. So that's his thing. And Botch were his other one. Now, we never knew it was going to come of Botch. They were going to come back and do these ridiculous one-off festivals. But he was always, when he thought Botch would come back and be a 1,500 to $2,000 kind of band, he always played Botch. He was like, that way, look at me with a side eye, like, when's the offer going in for this band called Botch? You know what I mean? So Manta are another one of his where it's not that I went to him and said, oh, by the way, that band you've been going on about for 15 years, you think you'd be good if we booked them. So he's copied in on all the offers as they go out, and me and him have chats about like the slots that are up in the air or who we're going to offer next. So nothing, I never came to the table with my 10 and he came to the table with his 10. That I generally go off in my merry way, and he's copied in as I'm off in my merry way, and then offers come in and I go back and forward with agents. And it's very rarely, in fact, Broad Queen's the only band of those that first, I don't know, 13, 14, where he even put up any sort of like, are you sure? Is this one of these ones you just kind of get carried away with yourself, Gavin? And the honest answer at times, like, I didn't know one with the other. I just like, this sounds exciting. And I do like a UK exclusive and a UK debut when it's, especially when it's a band that's been about for so long.
It's nice to be able to bounce ideas off someone, isn't it? When you're a one-man booking team, it's nice to be able to. And I've got three people I bounce ideas off. I'm a one-man booking team as well, really, but particularly Miles, Matt, and Mitch, I do will talk to about their specific areas of speciality, and it's quite nice to just try and work it out in your own head by talking to people.
I get like I use is such a terrible term for it, but I've got places that I go where I I'll have a fan or two from like the forum. No, I don't even know that personally, but I know I can trust if I ask them a question, I'm not just going to go and blab it. Who are like the ever-present Desert Fest fans. They know the opening band at Desert Fest on the smallest pub. That like that doom and sludge and that's their world. Like that, like post rock to me, that's the way the doom and sludge is for them. Or my mate Joe, who's on the WhatsApp chat, he's the guy that goes to the Icelandic dungeon and watches black metal. So I do put those out as well to certain wee areas where I'm a bit like, oh, for this band, Spotify numbers look pretty good. The tours have done look pretty good. And they've not been to the UK yet. Hard to really judge what it's worth. Is this a £100 band, 500? Am I getting this totally wrong? And it's a £3,000 band. And then you know very quickly when you go to those type of people that are like that is their world, and they go, I don't really know them. You're a bit like, well, if you don't know them, no one will know them. Or they go, my God, I've been waiting 15 years. People will lose their minds again. A small pocket of people, but that's enough. So with some bands, it generates an interest, and then they come with a friend. So aye, it's an odd space, the job that you and I do, and you're doing it as ultimately a one-man person, but having those people that you can trust to sort of go fishing with and say, right, okay, how will this go down with the black metal crowd? How will this go down with a sludge crowd is a big help. Neil Henderson, question for James. This has been picked up on a little in the John Rostrom episode, but why do bands of our world seem to favour Bristol over Cardiff? Do you think there's a lack of venues in Cardiff, or can it not be asked with the hellscape that's the M4 in Newport?
Well, I mean, I spoke to Miles earlier on about this. Because we promote in Bristol and Cardiff. They're so close together though that you rarely have a show that you want to put in Bristol and Cardiff on the same tour. So it's one or the other. And the reality is, for the sort of music we do, Bristol sells more tickets than Cardiff. Now, that might be its location, because Bristol is perfectly located where the M4 and the M5 meet, whereas Cardiff is, if you're coming from Birmingham or Oxford, say, it's a bit further for Cardiff. I don't know. So basically Cardiff's not a primary touring market. I don't know if there's the A markets, which is probably London, Manchester, Glasgow, maybe. Bristol is the next level down, and Cardiff would be another level below that, I think. So yeah, I just think Bristol's a better market, as in you're gonna make more money, the band's gonna make more money, the promoter's gonna make
In
more
your
money.
experience, so you're not getting a situation where a band's like, oh, we'll do Cardiff, but we'll take less. It's the same fee if you want that band, but you're playing whatever one you're playing, you're getting more fans in Bristol.
Well, because ultimately as the promoter, you need to break percentage, and then, I mean, one day we're going to do a whole episode on versus deals, but we're not doing it now. Fuck me. Um, but you ultimately need to break percentage so that you get into I'm the promoter, I'm getting 20% of the profit here. And your question is valid in a way, but once you've broken percentage, the bigger the venue, the more money everyone's going to make, probably. The more people you can get in, the more money you're going to make. So
Yeah,
reality is you will make more money in Bristol. And if for the same band, if you do a 400 cap venue in Cardiff, 400 cap venue in Bristol, you might sell 390 in Bristol and 290 in Cardiff, and it follows that there's more money to be made. Having said that, we do a bunch of shows in Cardiff because bands don't tour the same cities on every tour, do they? So if you do
yeah,
Bristol this tour, next tour you're going to do Cardiff. So
yeah.
yeah,
Aye, I get you.
there's still plenty of shows in Cardiff. Okay, next question. Christopher Williams, this is one of Gav's classic two-parters. How do venue upgrades work? At what point do you pull the trigger and go one step up? And how do you actually tell that there's enough demand? And does that change the deal you've made with the booking agent? Evan Prendergast then goes on to say, with regards to venue upgrades, what way would you advise doing it? I've had to upgrade venues in the past due to demand, which left the original venue quite unhappy. Is this something you would advise having as a just in case when booking? Okay, so let's tell everyone what a venue upgrade is first. So it's basically like I booked the Fleece for 400 capacity, but it sells out. So I upgrade the show to SWX at 1300. So it's basically going into a bigger venue. Now, if you're asking when do you pull the trigger to to go up. Well, that is like the promoter's experience. There's a bit of science, a bit of art in it, but you know, it's the question you're going to ask yourself is how quickly did your 400 cap show sell out? If it sold out in 2 months, and you've got another 2 months, you're probably not going to upgrade. You don't upgrade to an 1100 cap room from a 400 cap room just to sell 100 more tickets. The finances of that wouldn't work because the bigger venue will be way more expensive. So you only upgrade if you're going to smash a load more tickets. The band want it, the band want it to look good and full, and everyone wants to make money. So really, the likelihood is that a show's going to have to fly. If a show sells out in an hour, you don't need to be a genius to know that an upgrade would be a thing to do, right? So in that case, you would probably upgrade. But when you do that, your entire show budget needs to be recosted. So the offer you made to the agent is now basically a new offer with new venue hire costs and a new percentage, you know, a new versus deal basically. So the deal
Yeah, you
changes.
can't. You and Miles, if in a situation where you've done it, you and Miles can't just go, "Oh, brilliant! We're on to a winner here." Upgrade the venue and then just carry on regardless. I mean, that is something the band agent manager all need to be informed before that decision is taken.
Yeah, and it's really not the promoter that is, but you're not able to make that decision totally. It's totally on the artist team. And there are some situations where you book a venue and hold another venue, so you've actually got a venue. And that is expected to sell out ridiculously quickly. When um, you'll see a band put Brixton Academy on sale, and it will sell out, and suddenly they've got an Ali Pali on sale. That there's no way that wasn't already in the plan. They thought it might happen, so they had it held. There's obviously sometimes you're surprised about how quick it goes, and you might upgrade. These things don't happen that often. And the question about the small venue um, is that if you're going to work ethically, right, you want to give the small venue enough lead time because it's going to lose its show, isn't it? You've booked the venue. They've probably turned down others because you've booked that venue. So if you're upgrading from the Exchange in Bristol to the Fleece in Bristol, you you need to make sure the Exchange has got enough time to fill the calendar. If you're going to do it with a month's notice, then it's a bit of a shitty move.
And you could leave a bit
Um,
of a sour taste as well. And then
yeah,
there's a wee nuance in that sometimes you get a promoter who it's an in-house show. So you're going to some of these promoters that do these shows own that venue. And part of that move to book that would be they get the bar as well. So
yeah,
then you're a bit like, so if you've got the agent and manager come back and say, all right, okay, well, we sold the audio in a week and now we want to go to the garage. And if Mark's putting on that show who owns audio, he might be a bit like, well, that's no ideal because even if I'm moving with that show, I'm losing the bar. I don't have the bar at the garage. So
yeah.
it's a,
And the
it's
agent's
a,
not going to give a fuck about that, are they? They're
I'm not
literally,
going
they're
to
going
give
to be
a
like,
fuck
well,
about that. But Mark certainly will. You know what I mean? He'll be the one that gets stung at both ways. So, it's not something I've had experience. The shows that I've done in Glasgow, even the ones that sold out, where the more the way that James said, it's a gradual thing rather than it's odd to get a band and put them in because ideally, I mean, I'm sure the band managers and everyone in between the venue owners and promoter, if you know you're going to do those 800 tickets, 8,000 tickets, 18,000 tickets, you just put them in the venue you know is going to work to begin with. Or you would have, I don't know, Deftones going into 1,000 cap venues and being upgraded in every tour they've done. So most cases, people try to get them into the venues where they can. Or you'll have that one that, if you think for a second, when a whole tour gets put together, and there's these random wee gaps that suddenly it's a second night added due to phenomenal demand, and that was just chance. That was like, no, that was planned. They didn't want
yeah.
to put 2 or 3 shows on at the same time, just in case it did. Didn't it shot the bed that didn't do the sales wanted. But ultimately, the plan is to fill those dates. They're not just leaving 2 or 3 gaps in the middle of European tours. They expect that will eventually sell it and they'll be able to put a second date in.
Yeah, so bands will often like book. I think Idols did 5 Brixtons a couple of years ago, and they did like 5 days, 5 Brixtons. And let's face it, I have no inside information on this, but there's no way in a million years that they booked those one at a time, did they? They were like, let's book 5 Brixton Academies. We announce one, sells out. Announce the second one, sells out, and you just keep adding more. Um, so yeah, and if you actually really start watching what's happening in tours, you see this more and more. Like sometimes bands will do, they might sell out a Roundhouse in London at 4,000-ish cap, 4,000. Um, and then they'll do an Electric Ballroom, which is 1,500 as the second. And it's just like we need to make the tour work. Let's make some more money. We're not sure if we can do 2 Roundhouses, but we can add another sort of 50% of tickets. Let's
Yeah.
add an extra one. So yeah, it's quite interesting when you start realizing what's going on in the background. You
Aye, it
sort of
works.
see the strategies for the tours.
Okay, couple of questions left, then we'll go on the record. We have done a great job tonight at getting through a bunch of questions, James. This is not our usual hit rate of like 3 or 4, but that questions thread is now into several hundred of people just wondering. Great questions and there's not getting answered. So you've done well tonight, mate. Okay, despite not bringing us any Art Tangent bands, giving us one Trees band by accident, you've done really well tonight. Okay, mate.
Good.
Give yourself a round of applause when this is all done.
I'm very happy, mate. The 1 hour 20 minute gong is about to go, so we've got 10 minutes. I
Boom.
know that's bullshit, isn't it? I mean, we're allowed to go to 1 hour 45. So
145 is the
forget it,
absolute
Gav.
limit.
You relax. I apologize.
Right, I'm relaxing. Matthew David, what was the earliest booking for 2025 Damnation? Which band was booked first? It means how hard is it to keep them a secret and not let the cat out of the bag for so long? Now, I was looking at, because this it didn't spring to mind. It's not something that's been sitting there for God knows how long. So I had to go and look at the poster again and actually give it some thought. And I'm pretty certain it was Perturbator. And there's an interesting and expensive story to the Perturbator booking, which I'll go into on the live tour, which I'm not going to commit to a recording of Zoom. But I fucked it up and then had to pay to get it back. So I will.
Mate, I
Somebody
hope you're
reminds.
writing. Are you writing these down? All these?
Well, I'm hoping somebody remembers. I'm hoping somebody remembers. So if you remember to ask me that, I will tell
That's
you.
got to be in Manchester. We want to hear that story in Manchester on the live tour, mate.
Perfect, perfect. We'll do it then. So Perturbator would have been the one that was first. I noticed that today or yesterday they get announced. They're doing the forum then the day before Damnation, and Ghost are supporting. And there's a third band I forget the name of who aren't booked for Damnation, and people are making not a deal of it, but flagging up. People who like that band are saying, "Oh, this would be great to be at Damnation." It wasn't a case that we didn't like them. It was just that is a ultimately dance music is not the bread and butter of Damnation, and 3 slots right off the bat before you even know what's going on with the rest of the lineup was a lot to just commit to. So we took 2, and one was sort of left hanging. So we'll see. We'll see
Are
what
these
how
Saturday? Are they playing Damnation Saturday?
yes.
Mate, come on. Basically, put that band as the after party band. Come on.
Yeah,
We'll do a
do you
midnight
even know who they are?
midnight slot. Third stage, midnight. No, I don't know who it is. No.
So who are you talking about? You might hate them.
Because they're well, if they're touring with Perturbator and Ghost, then it's gonna be good, right?
Aye, so that was thinking. It wasn't anything against that band. It's just when people say, "Oh, well, Gav's not booked them." It's a lot to just commit to 3 dance bands right off. You've not even booked you've not booked a 4th band yet. The first 3 bands are dance bands. It was a bit like that's quite a lot. So they were the first ones. And is it tough keeping a secret, James? It's not personally, because it's one of those ones where you like myself, Paul, Angela would know. Bry, if he cared, would know, but he doesn't care. So he's just like, how bad's the logo and where's it going to poster? Is Bry's interest in what's happening with the bands. So I suppose I've been doing this a long time. You tell the people who you know you can trust and would care enough to want to hear it, and you don't tell the people that you couldn't trust, and you certainly don't go and tell the internet. And you hope that it doesn't get leaked. Leaks tend to happen the day of or on the week of announcement. It's not like Perturbator or agents running about telling people, "Oh, by the way, we're playing Damnation," and jumping up and down. So, aye, it's not that difficult to keep it a secret.
No, I mean I hate it when it leaks. It's really frustrating. I was going to tell you something last week actually that happened at the Better Lovers gig I was at. So I was chatting to my very good friend Remfrey from Right Act and Metal Hammer, and he said to me, "I know who the ATG headliner is." So the band I'm about to say is not playing Arctangent, right? So no, don't. And he then said, I four different people have told me, so I actually do know who it is.
Can I
And
guess
I'm
who
like,
he said it was?
yeah, go
Given
on.
I don't know, I'm going to guess Ocean's Eyes.
No.
Oh,
So he said to me, it's Mastodon playing Crack the Sky. And I'm like, mate, that's really, really annoyed me because it's probably the number one thing I want to happen in the world apart from the Mars Volta. But it's not that. We never even had a chat about Mastodon playing Crack the Sky with the agent. It was like, I mean, I've tried to put Mastodon, but someone started that rumor. I feel like we should root that person out and do terrible things to them
can,
because it
can
was
I
never true. Like
can I
someone
tell you
was,
something that you may or may not know about? But do you know about our Reddit community that
no.
about Arctangent? I'll maybe save this for offline. I mean, I'll maybe save this for like maybe this is just getting a bit too close to the too close to what's
No, come on,
actually
let's
going
do
on in
it.
the
Let's
world.
do it. Come on, let's do it.
Okay, so someone who the fuck did this contacted me and said, "Do you know there's a Reddit thread online that has got James's Spotify playlists
Mate, I
and
fucking heard about this. What the fuck? We're in some.
and then listed off. But it sounded like you were contemplating three different bands for the different festivals, and then rounded off the names to me. And I was like, okay, that is fucking completely random. So when someone is what went on to like maybe our playlist, clicked in your name, went through to find another playlist that you might have made at some point, and then went and took it to Reddit.
Yeah, so what I hadn't appreciated is that my Spotify is public. So any playlist. So I might have made a fucking playlist for my wife on her birthday. Well, I didn't actually, but I might have. Everything I do on Spotify, it turns out is public. I find out this week. The band that everyone thinks we've booked, we haven't. So fuck them.
Good, good.
It's a bit
That's
like the
it.
Mastodon story. Um, but yeah, oh God. I actually, do you know when I found out about that? Because one of my friends was posting it on Facebook, and I'm like, why are you posting it? Why,
You're supposed to be my
why are you
friend.
adding to the? I didn't know it was being discussed on Reddit. The internet's weird, isn't it? It's quite scary.
I don't go into Reddit. I would imagine as well. I'm sure there's a lot of shit going on in that kind of. If there's a two promoters one pod there, I hope that I've got all bits of my phone and when we're locked. Look what Gavin was up to on Saturday night. So, final question.
Is it me? Sorry,
Aye, it's just
that's really thrown me. Simon Green says, when a gig or festival sells out, how does a promoter know there is demand for tickets? The reason I ask is you see gigs add extra dates for shows after selling out due to demand. Um, how do they know they can sell more? Kind
yeah.
of
Okay, we
from
just
what
kind of we
we've
kind
heard.
of that's what that was sitting in my head about those extra dates. I thought it was a question before, but
Yeah,
it's
so we talked about upgrades already, but we also sort of talked about. Sorry, when I brought up the idols thing, I'd forgotten that this was coming. But yeah, it's basically how do you know? Well, there's something about if you're idols agent and there's you just know that they're hot shit at the time, and you don't know if you can do five Brixtons, you don't know if you can do three or 10, but you've got that it's going to fly, and you're going to stake your money on five, and announce them one at a time. And it's really that I think
and the thing is with
there's a
that,
lot
James,
of
as well, from a promoter's point of view, you if you goes out right and you do three Brixtons, right, it's not difficult to drop the two. There might be I don't operate at that level and I don't book idols for 5 gigs in a row at Brixton. So I don't know what sort of surcharges or home charge, whatever was involved in it. But I would imagine that it would be pretty minor to say, right, okay, well, Brixton are getting the money for 3 sold out gigs. We're not going to do the 4 for 5th night. Didn't work like that. And these guys operating at that level probably have a lot of relationships they can rely on. What you don't want to do is put even 3 of them out at once because you want, for pure business sense, you just want to sell one out. Boom. The demand looks sold out. You put on 3, 4, 5 of them in a row, maybe all 5 will eventually get there, but you're going to have them all like this all over the place. You might have the one on the Wednesday night that nobody can be asked with, sits there for ages, but the one on Saturday sells out within 2 hours. So it makes It's not great for fans because fans obviously have to pay through the nose to get whatever the premium hotel rates are, or they need to take days off work. But ultimately, the promoters and the bands and that don't care. As James said earlier, they're there for money, and that's the way to do it. But it's a safe way to do it, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of it.
Yeah, and it's basically like economic. So somewhere there's like an economic textbook, written about this. It's like it's connected to demand and supply. It's like don't put a 25,000 cap on sale. Do five, which still adds up to 25, but do them one at a time. And every time, everyone, because they think it's going to sell out. You just create panic 5 times to get to the 25,000 rather than no panic at all on a bigger venue. So
I wonder who, if anyone's got the economic template for when you do that. How many times do you get the repeat fan? Like how many Super Idols fan or Biffy Clyro fans go to 3 out of 5 of the gigs? Or 2 out of 5? Because as long as you get one going back more than once, you've just put another full ticket sale that you would never manage on that one time. Exactly, it's like years back, we had the Damnation merch always sold well. And I don't know, we made the decision, well, let's do an alternative version. Like, so make the Damnation one black, and then let's do one grey with a Gustav Dory artwork line up in the back. And then what you found is people just go and buy 2, like one of each, because they wanted them. So you're like, well, that was never happening before. You were never buying 2 of the same shot. I mean, but you would buy 2 of 2 different versions. So, and there must be a limit to when that starts to become not cost effective as well.
Well, mate, while we're down a rabbit hole and talking about economics, there's a thing called the Pareto principle, which is 80-20, and basically that you can make 80% of your profit from 20% of your audience. Yeah. So exactly what you just said there is the Pareto principle. You're basically making most of your money from a small amount of people because they're buying 3 Idols gig tickets or 2 Damnation t-shirts. So that, where the fuck am I going with this? Let's
it's all right. I'm good to it because you told me this in the Great Merch Debate episode. So
did I really?
Yeah, mate. And I'll listen, James. I recognise the names and get questions answered every single week. I listen to questions answers you've told me before. It's cool, mate. I've got.
So this. I'm like, so boring that I was thinking this is.
I know, and I'm losing you as well, man. The whole podcast, the wheels are coming off the podcast. I tell you what, I'll get Bri definitely edit that out for you, all right, pal? I won't. So, my internet connection's unstable. Right, quick shout before we lose everything here to Lou's Brews. I mentioned them earlier in the pod. I got a box of 5 of the new sauces. Tried at least 3 of them. They're fucking sublime. He's got a Winnie the Lou. It's a hot honey, which is beautiful. He's got a pineapple jalapeno one, which absolutely beautiful. He's got a Lord of the Wings that haven't opened yet. There's another one in there that's oh my god, he's got a porn piri piri. Now, we're at my son's 16th birthday party. Grandparents and his girlfriend and my younger daughter, the 14-year-old daughter with her pal, and we're talking about the sauces because that's all I talk about really now is Lou's Brew sauces. And there is a famous or infamous meme-worthy porn picture where there is 5 or 6 black gentlemen in front of a white couch and a white blonde girl on the couch. Now, I'm saying to my mother-in-law, that's from like a famous movie, and my son says his girlfriend there, and that's a porn site. he saw his girlfriend going, how the fuck do you know? So he saw his face, man. He never went so red in his life. He's like, oh, for fuck. No one was pulling me towards that, give me that shovel to dig that hole, but there I was digging away. So, Lou, this is a guy who done a veganese and called it It's Come. I think that this is definitely his most depraved. He's changed the woman's face to his face and put a denim jacket on it. And the guys in the back, the porn stars in the background have been turned into jalapenos or chilies. So, what do you do with that mind? That is a twisted individual.
Mate, I got the same package. I didn't even notice that. That was incredible.
Oh, so that's his peri peri one. So, yes, thankfully haven't tried that one yet either. But thanks for it. There's a pine jam. Did you get a pine jam?
Yeah, mate. So the hot honey and the pine jam are both really good, and two things that I never thought I needed in my life. I've been having hot honey this week on my sourdough and boiled eggs breakfast.
Oh, well done. That'll be a wee change, yeah. That'll be a change of pace. I had some hot honey on a homemade pizza that I made for I want this tonight. So yes, great new range. Get in there, pod 15% off your sauces. Grab a two promoters, one sauce, along with some of his new range. Support the big man. It's all good, and he does like a good laugh. On the record, James, take us home.
Mate, right. So this band have already been announced for 2000 Trees. They're a Belgian band called Ronker, Ronker. The song is called Slow Murder. So the lazy way to describe them is that they're a more sort of noisy and experimental version of Idols. They're quite reminiscent of the band Pigs, Pigs, Pigs in places as well. I think if any of that sounds like it might be up your street, you should definitely check them out. They've got these like heavy lumbering riffs, really fast punky sections, and then I mean the thing that sounds like Idols is the vocals. But I think they're a really great package. They're really just weird enough to really pique my interest. It fits Trees, but I nearly bought them for ATG, and I was kind of like teetering one way or the other. I just really rate this band. The whole album's good. It was in my top, I don't know, one of my favorite albums of last year, not in my top 20, but yeah, it's good. They're really good band.
Just so we're clear on the exact, what festival the book for, Trees or ATG?
Trees.
Trees. Okay. I think I picked you up there saying they were booked for ATG, but I am not an expert at that and definitely good at fucking it up. So Trees, Cronker.
Ronker.
Ronker.
Ronker. Please
Jesus Christ, Westons. I had one. I'm losing my way in one rhubarb cider. Very good. Very good. I've been recommending some lesser known bands as of late, but this is one that doesn't need an introduction and is bang up to date. Death Heaven, Magnolia. Now, the screams are back, baby. Michael Ackerfeldstein, the screams are back, and you can see the reaction already. I've seen it in the forum, had WhatsApp message about it. It's like Death Heaven are not doing the Oasis influenced shoegaze now. It's back to the black metal. And honestly, listening to Magnolia, if you went back to New Bermuda and you stripped all the calming pleasantries out of Brought to the Water, the opening tune, you've essentially got what Magnolia is. It's a 4-minute burst of Welcome Back, baby. It's black metal, still has that. That's Death Heaven sound. It's like got shoegaze. It sounds shoegaze to me actually when it's like that. It's like a heavy post rock, post metal riff just behind the black metal, behind the blast beats and the vocals. That just gives it a bit more. I don't know. Just makes it give a bit more depth, makes it a bit more interesting. So I am buzzing about hearing this. I've been on the Death Heaven hype train a long time. I was at Infinite Granite, and the one before lost me a bit. They were fine, but it was too passive for what I wanted from a Death Heaven record. And this sounds like we are going back to what we had before the Sunbather, New Bermuda era. So I love it. Have you had the chance to listen yet?
Yeah, I've listened to it twice. I really liked it on the first couple of goes. I did actually like their last very, very melodic album. But yeah, it's nice to hear them properly go heavy again.
At what they're best at. So yes, listen, we never got the Art Tangent Bands. It sounds like we're going to get a bumper special for next week. So I'm looking forward to that all coming out. Apologies on that front, but James seems to be dealing with all sorts of chaos, which I'm really looking forward to. Because genuinely, people probably think I'm sitting here like I know what's happened. I don't know anything about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing these names, how they've come about, and how they've all dropped at the sky suddenly within the space of a week. So sounds like it's going to be a good chat with that. So
yeah,
what's the final thing for fans to do? Fans, I hate that term, fans. What's the final thing for listeners to do?
Well, they could buy a tour ticket. They could go and leave us a review somewhere. Tell Facebook and tell us what you liked about this episode. Gav likes us to talk to him.
I tell you what, you're right, James, because no, I never done the last one because obviously the focus was Hayden being a guest. I didn't say give us a thumbs up on YouTube, give us some interaction, like talk to us, tell us what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like about the episode, what you thought, just any sharing opinion. And because I never said that, it was the least amount, despite doing the same amount of downloads, it was the least amount of interaction, likes, anything, any sort of traction with it at all that we've had in weeks. So, yes, please, people, get back to that. It's a 1 second thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the stars in Spotify. Give us a question. Talk to us on any of the platforms that we're on, and Patreon or Ko-fi. You'll see that in the
Yeah,
link tree. We'll stick it up. We'll link it back to wherever it is in the platforms. Support us there as well, and we will keep this gravy train running.
absolutely. Tell your friends about us. Actually, before we go, did you see that guy post on Facebook saying he'd he'd never been to ATG before and he bought an ATG ticket and he wanted to research the lineup. So he somehow found the podcast and he went to listen to the 2 or 3 ATG specific episodes. And now, I think just in January, he's blitzed 53 episodes and he was just telling us
And
how,
did you hear the secret of how we managed to blitz through
oh,
53 episodes?
he's got you on, well, both of us on 2 times speed.
It's not possible to hear the words. I tried it. It's you almost. I mean, I had no idea what I was saying, and I was the one that said the words. I have no that it must absolutely incredible at times too. It would give me genuine anxiety trying to listen to me at times too. But listen, if that's what floats your boat, mate, have me at times too. Aye, you're
It
right.
made me
And I
feel
think
good.
it was great with your response to it was great as well. It was like that is the kind of shit you want to read now, and that's exactly what I mean about it. It's like it's not about like, oh my god, you guys are amazing. Let me go and give you £10 and fucking Patreon. It was like it's the journey for it. It's the I wanted to cut me out tangent. I wanted to find out how I'd find out my information for that tangent. I listened to these podcasts. I got on board with this, having a laugh with you guys. Now I'm doing this, and then hopefully come to the tour. You're about like that's fucking class. It's
Yeah.
you just want to hear that rather than fucking 10,000 folk listening and 3 of them saying good episode, guys. You know what I mean? So yes, on that note, and we never cracked the barrier, did we? We've managed to get here in time.
I think we're good. I think we're
We're
okay.
good. Until next week, Mr. Scarlett.
Thanks,
See you
mate.
then.